Greetings, friends. I hope the day finds you well. I decided to get out on this wonderful Sunday afternoon, about 56 degrees, and just take a ride. And today's topic is motorcycle helmets. Specifically, what do you see as the most beneficial motorcycle helmet in terms of the type that's out there in the market? Some people tell you they prefer the full face helmet. You also have the half face helmet. You have the quarter helmet, and you have no helmet at all. Now, first of all, I want to say that any helmet's better than no helmet at all. And the conversation I'm having right now also is under the assumption that the helmet in question is a DOT-approved helmet. So those are a couple of things that right off the bat we're going to make the assumption on. Is it's a DOT helmet. As for helmet versus no helmet, any type of helmet is okay. Any type of helmet's better than no helmet at all. But when you're looking at helmets and you're comparing helmet to helmet, a lot of people have different views on what kind of helmet to use. I myself prefer a full face helmet. The one I'm wearing, for instance, it's full face, visor, readily accessible. I have to slide my head in and out of it. Now, some of the disadvantages of people will tell you about it is, that it's hard to put it on with your glasses on, and it feels so limiting, things like that. But I got to tell you, I prefer the full face because a full face is a much sturdier helmet. In addition, it's got the visor and it's got the cover, so I'm not just being protected from a crash, but I'm being protected from debris that's going to come up in front of me and hit me. For those of you who ride motorcycles every day and you wear visors, you know what I mean about the insects and the bugs and the rocks and the dirt. And I just prefer the full face helmet. It gives me, including a noise reduction. So I have all of these things that I really prefer about it for those reasons. Now, other people will tell you they prefer the half face, and actually before we even talk about that, let's go back to full face. You have a happy go between a full and a half, and that's one of those modular helmets, the ones that flip up in front, and you have the ability to insert your glasses and things. Those are nice, and I think they're pretty good to use. I've seen a few, I've tried a few on, I like them. But if you are in a crash, they break away, and then the face becomes really as secure in a crash as a half face helmet. But again, it's a happy go between a full face and a half face helmet. So getting on to the half face helmet, some people say, well, you get the wind in your face, you get all these different things, and that's true. That's very true. But when you're talking about a half face helmet, you have to buy a pair of goggles, and you still run the risk of getting hit with some of that road debris. I have to tell you, with my full face, I've had some incidents happen to me in the past that have just made me a lifelong full face helmet fan. I had a friend of mine once, and actually there were three of us. We were riding together. We were riding the River Road, actually, coming back to the St. Louis area from Quincy, and we were riding along the River Road, and a bird comes flying down and hits me square in the helmet. And number one, I'm thinking, if I didn't have a helmet at all, that bird was probably, I don't know if it was a pigeon or if it was a robin or whatever it was, but it came down, pretty good sized bird, just hit me in the helmet. And, it didn't really do much to me, just surprised me. I'm thinking, oh wow, I saw that. But it hit me, and I'm thinking that number one, if I didn't have a helmet on at all, I would have been knocked off the bike, and I'd have been in real trouble. If I had a half-face helmet on, there's a good chance that it may have still kind of some of the debris of it hitting me may have hit me in the face. So I have that risk because I didn't have as much coverage with that helmet as I would a full-face helmet. And then not funny, I mean, I never laughed at a death of anything, but the thing that happened next was after it bounced off my helmet, it then bounced over the rider in between me and another guy, and it hit the guy behind me who also had a full face helmet, and it just bounced off of him. And he had the same experience. thinking, you know, what would have happened if he didn't have a helmet at all? How does that go over? And speaking of no helmet at all, I remember riding with an uncle once who didn't like to wear helmets, and he had an insect hit him right in the mouth, and it entered into his mouth and started choking him. On the middle of a ride, he had to pull over and spit up and catch his breath and everything else. And he started wearing full face helmets after that. Yeah, but anyway, getting back to my story, you know, this friend of mine, we're talking about it, and he's saying the same thing. He's just glad he had the full face helmet, or for that matter, just a helmet at all. Now, you know, those are some stories there. I think a half face would have probably protected both of us, especially a half face with a visor on it. But again, I would have been a little bit. It would have been a different story if I didn't have a helmet on at all. You know, and there's a third type of helmet I know people mention, and I don't know if I'm giving it the right name, but I guess it's a quarter helmet. It's a helmet that basically you just set on top of your head, and then you put, so it's like a hard hat, and then you run the safety strap down to keep it on your head. Again, better than nothing, but I'm not a huge fan of that type of a helmet. And I'm not judging anybody that wears it. I totally get it. You know, you're going to do what you do, and you understand the risks. You're adults, and you probably have the skills to be able to ride, and you're willing to accept some of those risks. But what are some of those risks? When you wear that kind of a helmet, you could get hit with road debris, hit you in the forehead, many other places. When you have a crash, you could go face first, and it's not really going to protect you there. Really, for the most part, a helmet like that almost is there for compliance purposes only. You know, say you're obeying the law. Again, not a huge fan of them, but I'm not judging someone that rides with them. I'm just a fan of riding in general. But I will say this, any one of those helmets that I mentioned, while we have different opinions on them, and I'd love to hear your opinion, you know, I think they're better than riding with no helmet at all. I would much rather ride with something on my head than something without that on my head. You think about it, you know, your brain is the most important part of your body. You know, and might as well invest in it and protect it as best as you can. What are your thoughts? Let me know what you think. What style of helmet do you prefer, and why?